Hello and welcome back, baby, to the anniversary true crime tales as told by me, Yinka Bokinni. This series is where I take the anniversary of a crime or something that's happened in a crime and tell you about it on the anniversary. It's simple. I think I've just messed it up. Whatever. This week marks the 4th anniversary of something quite disturbing. While most of the content that I post for this series isn't exactly full of sunshine, rainbows and unicorns, today's story actually involves a crime against a child, which I think deserves a little bit of a warning. Now we've got that out of the way, let's begin. The anniversary for this week is of the arrest of Jeanie Ditty, who at the time was 23 years old and an active service person in the army in the US and was based in North Carolina. She was arrested this week 4 years ago for the murder of her 2-year-old daughter, a crime that, if convicted of, could see her facing the death penalty. But I don't want to start in late March of 2016 for this story. I don't even want to start on the day that baby Macy was killed in December 2015. I think it's best to begin our story on January the 4th, exactly a month after the death of young Macy. Her mum, Jeanie, contacted a photographer by the name of Sunny Joe, and she sent him pictures of herself at the gravesite and walking through the cemetery, and what she wanted and what he offered was for him to superimpose the baby into these pictures. I'm gonna pop them. They're gonna live here. Now, I've never lost a baby, I've never lost a child, so let me know if you think that I'm being too harsh. But I think this is really weird. And then when you get a little bit deeper into the facts of this case, these pictures, they just become more and more creepy and less like the tribute of a mourning mother. I should say this edit wasn't unique to Jeanie. She wasn't the first nor the last person. People deal with grief in all kinds of ways. On an episode of Judge Judy the other day that I was watching, a woman wanted to get her dead dog stuffed like it was her favourite pet, and she wanted to get the dog stuffed, but I think she gave it to the taxidermist and then he kept the dog out the freezer, so it all got a bit peak. I'm digressing, but people deal with grief in weird ways. I actually feel a little bit sorry for the photographer because he did put a lot of effort into making this. His work became infamous for all of the wrong reasons because of what Jeanie Ditty might have done. He also ended up doing the work for free because he felt sorry for her. He thought that they were living in the aftermath of a terrible accident, and then he found out that she had been arrested. He was contacted in March of 2016 by a detective because she posted these pictures, these ones here, on her Instagram and on her Facebook, and wrote like a tribute and tagged the photographer. I've seen the original post, and you know how people use like hashtags to get more attention on Instagram and on Facebook? She hashtagged like army bikini or something, service muscles and stuff, so that was a little bit odd. Now I think it's time that I tell you about the events that led up to the tragic death of young Macy. When asked by Sunny how her daughter died, Jeanie said that she had choked on a banana, but we're about to find out that that isn't true. Police were called when the youngster was admitted to hospital on the 2nd of December. She was covered in bruises consistent with child abuse. 2 days later, on the 4th of December 2015, young Macy died. Her mum, Jeanie, and Macy were living with her mum's boyfriend, a guy called Zachary Kiefer, who was also arrested and was also charged with the same counts as Jeanie. Now, at the hospital, when Jeanie was told by the doctors that Macy wouldn't survive her injuries and that the toddler looked like she'd been beaten to death, her reaction was described as cold, and one even quoted her as saying, "I guess that makes me a bad effing mother." There's a Facebook page called Justice for Macy, which was launched and is managed by Macy's Aunt Michelle, and they have got a lot of information up there and they keep it up to date because this story is still very much ongoing, so they post quite often. And I got a lot of the information that I'm telling you now from that Facebook page, and of course I will link everything you need to get your education on in the description box of this video. In the end, Zachary was let go. His charges were dropped, and there seemed to be a lot of evidence against Jeanie, but not against Zach, so he didn't end up going to trial. So there's one thing that I've learned, even when I was at uni, I noticed it when I used to read through trial notes and stuff, is that it just seems like you can get an expert to say anything. Like, anything that the prosecution says. This case, the wounds that Macy received were caused right before she was admitted to hospital. It seems like the defense can counter that with another expert who they will find to say, oh, actually no, they couldn't determine the time frame of Macy's injuries because they were so severe. So I just found it really interesting when I'm reading summaries of the defense's case and the prosecution's case that they're telling two different stories, but they've got the same caliber of expert witness. I don't think that should be allowed. One thing that we do know, though, is that texts from Jeannie's phone sent from her show her to be anything but the loving, doting mother that she claimed to be. Messages saying that she lit Macy up, that she beat her for shitting in her diaper. I need to let you know that Macy was 2 years old. She was killed 10 days before her 3rd birthday, so her still wearing a nappy, what's wrong with that? Yeah, messages that said that Jeannie threw her in a cold bath. Messages also saying that Macy was scared of her, that she was running away, and that she had gripped her up and let her have it. She also texts that she made Macy stand in the corner until she was so exhausted she fell asleep. And eventually, Macy put herself to bed on the 2nd of December and she never woke up. I've actually seen photos of little Macy in her hospital bed during this time, and I don't actively look for crime scene photos or pictures of people in hospital or victims in hospital, but because I'm researching the crimes, often pictures are hard to miss. The pictures that I saw, you can clearly see bruises all over her body, bruises on her neck, on her face, on her ear is like swollen and bleeding, and even the bruises on her neck look like finger marks. That's what they look like. One thing that I find so awful about this case, apart from the obvious of a baby being killed so violently and needlessly, is that Jeannie doesn't seem to offer any type of explanation, any separate or differing story as to what happened to her daughter. From everything that I've read and watched, she just sits there kind of gormless, and I'm not saying that because she isn't screaming and crying at every given opportunity that she must be guilty. I know that everybody reacts to grief and to loss and to tragedy differently. It's just that she doesn't give anything. When Zachary was let go and the charges against him were dropped, her defense just pinned everything on him. The courts didn't find enough evidence to bring Zachary to trial, so how can the defense pin it on him when there's only one person who is up for first-degree murder? If Jeannie didn't harm her daughter, then what were those texts? The messages on her phone, they were so damaging, they were so descriptive that there was definitely abuse going on in that house to that little girl. If Jeannie didn't kill Macy, then who did? I think we can say that there are loads of questions when it comes to this case. You know, it's still very much ongoing, and I'll tell you what the latest news on this is in just a second. But one of the questions that I kind of cannot wrap my tiny little brain around is, why did Jeannie commission those photos? Like, now, with a little bit of distance between the images being produced, Sonny going viral, and him, you know, having a mare with people online calling him all sorts of names because he's the one that made them, to now, I sit here and I think, why did she get them made? A lot of the people that knew her, I read this in the Facebook group, like a lot of people who knew her, they think it was for attention, and by George, did she get that? I mean, the ghostly images of her walking with her hand in hand with her dead baby, and, you know, her reading to her ghostly child have been shared thousands of times online, and when this story started to unfold, those pictures just became more and more harrowing. I just find it so bizarre, and there is something inherently wrong with you. Like, there has to be something wrong if you're gonna kill your kid and then get ghost pictures made of them. So on the 20th of March 2020, that is this year, the trial of Jeanie Ditty ended in a hung jury, 10-2, guilty to not guilty. Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see how this one pans out and when a new trial date is set, which of course will be sometime in the future, but with the way that things are going now, I'm not sure when that's gonna be. Until then, Jeannie will be sitting in jail, and those pictures will be sitting online, haunting us all. Thank you for watching.